I'm using a different mic than I'm using for the video you're about to see, but the video you're about to see is a quick podcast style video of me discussing with another person about inputs in fighting games and how they feel about them. I went on Twitter a few days ago and asked people if they could give me their opinions on inputs in fighting games so I could use it for a video I'm making. Uh, this is one of three discussions, and the other two will be posted soon, as along with the edited video essay that is going to be coming at a later date when I finish it. Thank you for enjoying the content and stick around. Again, there will be two more of these posted, unedited, and they may be edited down into the into the longer video essay. Thank you. All right, so we're here doing the first. I guess it would be like a discussion over like inputs in fighting games, right? So I'm joined with Eggs from Twitter.
Hello.
So, Eggs, what was your position on inputs being in fighting games?
I think they're kind of good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they can, the whole concept could be, in my opinion, overhauled and changed to make it more appealing to a casual fan base. But I also think there's a logic behind having them in games.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely disagree with them balancing a game around, having a hard input, and then it's like, oh, it's difficult to pull off, therefore we can be a bit more relaxed on balancing it. I think that's pretty stupid, at least.
Okay, I can definitely see that. You know, like I'd say like that could be a form of like archaic design in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cause like when Capcom designed the Shuriken input, they made it more difficult, like less intuitive in order to balance it because of its power. And I think that could be seen as like a lot more of a less intuitive, like that can be seen as a lot more archaic than like a fireball motion.
Yeah, actually, because I've got a move list from Street Fighter Five up right now,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Yeah. Okay.
But actually, one of the things points I someone made, and then I quite like, is that there's a similar there's a strangely similar situation in League of Legends
Mm-hmm.
where they balance certain characters around, oh, no one plays them in normal games, therefore we'll just nerf and buff them for pro play. And that
Oh.
leads to some characters being ridiculously over or undertuned, because it's like, well, in coordinated play they do this, and at the top level they can abuse it. So that's what my kind of opinion on the inputs thing is, because it's like, sure, at a mid to low level it's fine, because yeah, and then someone then at a top level it's completely unbalanced, because it's like you're expected to be able to consistently do this, and then because you obviously getting paid and shit.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually like interesting. I've never played League before, or like I don't really know anything about it.
Oh, I really would not recommend it.
But yeah, that sounds like a pretty interesting way of balancing. I know like there's other like esports games that have done that, especially
Yeah.
like a game I would play a lot was Rainbow Six Siege, and they've definitely designed certain operators with competitive play and casual
Yeah.
play in mind, and I think I've definitely tended to dislike that quite a bit.
Yeah, I just feel it kind of stuffs you over if you've invested time into the character, because it's like there's something that you mightn't even be abusing, but then indirectly affects you.
Yeah, like I think.
And then,
Hmm?
sorry, now you go.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry. I think for me, like I think that form of balancing is like it's not very good for a lot of reasons because like in a fighting game, if you're going against a new player, you can probably hit them with like a lot of cheap things like just spamming lows, right? Or like
Yeah.
just doing stuff like that. And it's not because lows are insanely good or something. It's because that player just doesn't know how to deal with them at that point, right?
Yeah, they don't know. They don't have the knowledge.
Yeah, it may be like different in a game like League where like counters are like more difficult in terms of like execution or like planning and everything, but that's kind of how I see it. I don't like that form of balancing at all.
Yeah. Actually, one interesting thing I remember, a friend a few years ago had Mortal Kombat X,
Hmm.
and one one thing with the balancing the game around an input or like having inputs is that I think it was like Jason or some shit. One of
Hmm.
his versions had like a teleport move.
Oh yeah.
That yeah, that one. Because amongst my friends who were all casual players, we ended up just banning Jason because I worked out how to do the teleport thing, and I
Oh.
just do that constantly.
Okay.
And so that's one of my issues with like inputs as a whole. Because like I think Smash. I know this is a bit like everyone shits on Smash Brothers for it, but I think Smash and the simplified inputs for Terry are really good because it kind of levels the playing field. Like you can still do them in a basic way
Hmm.
without it being like, oh, stop doing that. I don't know how to do that. It's just stupid, sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, I kind of get that. Like, I think the way like Terry, like the way his inputs are designed are pretty smart. And like inputs in general in Smash because you can do all the inputs as long as you're not playing Ken without doing an input. It's just the way it works is that it's weaker, and
Yeah,
yeah, like so I know for a lot of people they used to do like the weaker inputs, but they wanted to they wanted the advantages that the actual
yeah,
inputs gave, so they had to learn it because the game gave that little nudge to show like there is merit to learning it.
yeah. I think that's good, but then at the same time, it kind of goes back to the point I was making, where it's like it's it's making something stronger because of the complexity type thing. Like
Yeah.
I think the way Smash does it probably best because
Hmm.
it's like you can still quite easily succeed just by using the weaker moves. But then again, the same, it's like yeah,
Yeah, like I main Terry, and there's definitely times where I need to use the weaker inputs instead of the stronger inputs because the stronger inputs they may have more end lag, they may lack invincibility or whatever it may be. So there's definitely trade offs. I think I prefer that a lot. Like a game a fighting game that does that well actually is Grand Blue Fantasy Versus because it has the
yeah.
option for you to do inputs or you can do all your special moves with a direction and a button at the cost of a cooldown.
Oh,
And that's
that's
definitely a very interesting system. And it's especially interesting when you do like one button DPS because
oh yeah,
yeah, the cooldown is longer than doing like a fireball, right? But like DPS take time, and you can definitely do a deep like you can anti-air way later by using a simple input. So there's merit to using the inputs and the not inputs, and that's like definitely a very interesting system. It's a
yeah,
gray area instead of just saying oh input is better no matter what, you know.
yeah. So there's like the ambiguity type thing of hey, you can use this. There's like merit to all of it, meaning yeah.
Yeah, like there's actual like decision making there, and I feel like that's
Yes, sorry.
interesting.
I'm literally just trying to. I've got my Switch and I'm trying to open up like Terry, Ken, and Ryu so
Oh
I can
yeah.
see like the inputs and shit.
Hmm.
Actually, I think one thing that I found interesting is like I think the way a game kind of describes it is pretty good as well because I got Skullgirls because it was dirt cheap on Steam the other day and I didn't even have a controller plugged in and I ended up being able to teach myself all the inputs in the tutorial just on like arrow keys and shit
Hmm. Oh yeah.
because of the way it's presented in the tutorial and I think that's also a good thing.
Yeah, like I definitely think there's merit to teaching inputs in tutorials like properly. I think even games
Yeah.
with like good tutorials, they definitely like tend to skim out on like teaching inputs to players, and I think that's
Yeah.
important. Uh, to a lot of people, inputs are not very intuitive or just
Yeah,
they don't make
I definitely
sense.
think they're really unintuitive.
Yeah, and I think they're unintuitive on purpose, but that's more of like a older design decision. I think there's very few inputs that feel intuitive like ever to me, but there's definitely
I
merit
think the
to
Hadoken one.
Hadoken. Yeah,
The
Hadoken.
Hadoken one, at least for me,
Yeah,
feels quite.
like especially like when you're playing on like stick or something, where you're actually like just moving your hand, like kind of in the same motion as the character.
Yeah,
That kind of helps it out. There's definitely merit to that. I inputs inputs aren't insanely hard, and I think
Yeah.
with a lot of people, when they
Uh,
hear someone talk about like inputs being too easy, right, or inputs like being archaic or something, they tend to think, oh, you just can't do inputs, but that's not really what it
yeah.
is. There's points
It's
to it.
it's it's kind of like the Dark Souls thing of, oh, why can't they make this game easier, just get good type thing.
Yeah,
It's
like
like it's a non-answer. It's just telling you, yeah, well, just yeah.
yeah,
I
like
don't know.
there's merit to educating on both sides, and that's the main reason why I'm doing this here, because I'm definitely on the hard side of like inputs are
Yeah.
necessary, and I'm for them. But I also play tons of games that don't have inputs. Like I play Smash. I play like that Power Rangers game. That game has no inputs, and I love it. It's like Marvel. It's like Marvel vs. Capcom, but there's no inputs.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. Like for me, I know like it took me like a little while to learn the DP input, and especially when I was learning fighting games when I was younger. Like
Yeah.
I think when you look at a game like Grand Blue.
Wait.
Hmm.
DP is like that's sure that's Dragon Punch,
Yeah,
right?
Dragon Punch. Yeah, Dragon Punch.
Yeah. So that's like Shoryu and shit, right?
Hmm. So forward,
Okay.
down, forward. Yeah.
Yep.
Like I think I remember I tested this with my dad. I got him to play Grand Blue, and I wanted him to learn inputs, and he used like the shortcuts for a little bit. But he realized that there was a cooldown, and he stopped me doing the moves, and he saw there was no cooldown between, and he asked me, why do I have to wait between my moves? And it's because you did it the simple way, and I did it the more
Yeah.
difficult way, and that's when he was like, okay, well I want to learn, and I like sat down with him for like an hour and like taught him how to do inputs, and
Yeah.
it was an interesting experience. I don't think for a lot of people inputs are difficult, but
Yeah.
they feel inputs can be, even though they're not hard, they can be like a unnecessary
Yeah.
barrier to
Yeah.
enjoying fighting games.
It get quite intimidating.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing I think honestly, if they like making them easier, I think it actually in some ways this may sound a bit stupid, but
Hmm.
um if they made like inputs a bit easier or easier to learn, I think it'd benefit players a bit because like thinking about the fatigue because like you've got your like fight stick and crap
Yeah.
and like just thinking about like you're constantly having to like do quarter circles and like full circles and shit
Yeah. Like
and then make constant adjustments.
I definitely got fatigue when I was for like the first like few days when I was learning stick, because your body's
Yeah.
not used to it yet. Like I think for pad it's a little bit different, but like your thumbs may like tend to like hurt a little bit after like using
Yeah.
a controller, and I think yeah, there's definitely merit to that. Like because inputs are like a motor skill, right? Like you are using your hands
Yeah.
and fingers for it. There's definitely merit to like to it, and
Mm.
I think like when I was learning like more complex inputs like the Tekken Wave Dash, that took me hours to learn, and it's not because the input was uh, insanely hard. It's because it was a series of non-intuitive inputs that I had to do fast, and it
Yeah.
wears on your hand, and the not like the motor time it takes, you have to retrain your hand to go that fast, and
Yeah.
it's
Just you.
like it takes it's difficult, and it's
Yeah.
difficult because of the tool it allows, and that's from a balancing that a lot of people don't agree with, but I
Yeah.
think it gets better when that form is not necessary, but it adds a layer.
Yeah. Like if it if it makes it like if it kind of enriches the experience but doesn't ruin it for everyone else, like there's the option and it'll you'll be rewarded for it, but like it's not like, oh, I just can't play the game
Yeah,
at like a decent competitive level sort of thing.
yeah, like the reason I learned the wave dash is because it's a character specific tech. There's tons of characters in the game that don't have that option, and they play just fine, and they're just as good, if not better, than the character I played.
Who do
And
you play, by the way?
I play Jin, and so I was learning like Mishima tech, right? So wave
Yeah.
dashes and like electric just frames. Like
Yeah.
those characters are meant for like execution, right? They reward execution, and that's why they're that way. And there's other characters
Yeah.
that are easier, and are
Yeah.
good as well.
I mean, isn't like I've played some Tekken like enough to have a brief understanding, but isn't there like people like King or some shit where it's just the complete opposite, where it's like constant like grappling and shit. It's not like tight movements. It's more like read the grab type thing.
Yeah,
Read the option.
when King does his grabs, there's like a sort of like a mini game that you have to do to escape it, where you have to press the right button to get out, or the right like button plus input to
Yeah,
get out.
that's kind. I find that interesting, like the kind of paper scissors thing,
Yeah,
because it's quite. I feel like that's like that sounds on like that sounds to me like a good way to kind of level it out,
hmm
because it's like then it's a very simplistic way of getting out. So then it's not, oh, you've got to, yeah,
yeah. Like it's not like doing like an input plus a button to get out. It's simply just pressing one button to get out. And even though it may be annoying in the moment to get hit by it because you didn't know it, just knowing
yeah,
that you can go into training mode and learn it, and have it be as simple as pressing a button at a time, uh,
yeah,
that definitely helps a lot of people to want to learn. Like Tekken before, their throw system was very complex because in order to break the throw, you have to guess, or you have to see which hand was forward and press that button, because the game is split
yeah,
between like two, like left punch, left kick, right. So you had to pay attention to which hand was forward in the opponent's throw to break it. In seven, it's different because normal throws can be broken by
yeah,
any punch, but command throws you still need to you still need to know like the hand or the breaking method, like with King.
yeah. Actually, uh, shit, I had like a point and I completely forgot it.
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah,
If you remember it, just let me know. We can talk about it.
yeah.
But mhm.
Actually, yeah. The with wave dashing, it kind of made me think of melee, and I feel like that because it can't be changed. Like there's no, I feel like that's very interesting because it's like I'd essentially consider like some of the tech like wave dashing is fairly basic once you like. I suppose you could say the same with all like input commands, but
Mhm.
I'd say I consider wave dashing like um an input pretty much because there's
Yeah,
like
I would call it an
small
input.
frame of execution.
Yeah,
Like you've got to, yeah.
I call it an input.
I I think the melee is kind of interesting because like I think it does show that you can have incredibly complex and like free flowing gameplay and like lengthy combos without the need of like specials and supers and crap. And like uh, so you kind of don't need inputs for the game to like have that depth. And not to say that like Melee's got more depth than other fighting games.
Mhm.
I'm saying it just kind of like it the way it unintentionally does it ends up being like yeah,
Yeah, like I think freeform mechanics like actually like are really helpful not only for competitive players but also casual players.
yeah,
Like melee can be played very casually. Like you
yeah,
know, like you don't need to know how to wave dash in order to play melee, and that's how a lot of people did play melee. They didn't know how to wave dash, right?
yeah. Isn't there that guy who is it? It's like there's the guy who like he's a Sheik player.
Yeah, I heard about him. He was a Sheik player who had like no tech skill, but he was still very good.
I'm literally googling it.
hmm
No tech skill. Yeah, Borb. He's a Pennsylvania player. He
Mm.
doesn't wave dash. He doesn't L cancel.
Yeah, like it's crazy to think about, but he still does okay.
Yeah,
Like
and
that.
he's got like
Hmm.
he's got first like some decent like he's got like several good placements in like doubles and in like singles.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of that could be an interesting example in that like you can succeed in an environment where everyone like I feel like mid-level melee especially everyone is trying to like they trying to learn all the advanced tech. Like I go to some melee like local melee tournaments
Hmm.
and like there's like so many dudes and I'm like why would you spend your time on that? Because there's how like Fox is like the Wave Shine Infinite on Peach on
Yeah.
FD where
Yeah.
like there's this dude and he can do it to like a ridiculous amount of hits and it's just like why do you invest your time in that and shit? It's like
Like at that level,
yeah,
it's not the best like use for your time at that point,
yeah,
right?
it's I feel like that could kind of be said with like practicing inputs. Like when do you just like when do you kind of just end when does it end up like requiring too much time investment for like a mid level like or casual fan base? Like
Yeah, like there's definitely merit to that. I know like when like this was definitely smaller, but when Geese came out in Tekken, like his inputs were very not intuitive because they're old school
yeah, that
SNK pretzel motions and like
yeah,
button combinations. They're very weird, right? Like Raging
yeah that
Storm and
ripped straight from
Rocketmon.
SNK.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, it was very difficult because you had to time them in certain ways, and like the input itself was very difficult to look at. But to play Geese, you don't really need to know those inputs at a certain level, And Geese is not a character for all he's not a character for all people at certain levels, Like you could spend 5 hours learning how to do an input if you have no if you don't know how to do it properly, or you could use that time with Geese to learn a good like
Yeah, like
punish or like you or
learn
learn
combos and shit.
yeah, because those inputs are not necessary for like most of his combos.
They're like so they're just good for like getting out of combos and shit or
They're there
like big hits or
to make his combos stronger because like the super inputs they have more utility,
yeah.
and they're also just stronger if you're to use them at like the end of a combo or something.
Yeah, so they like finishes and shit.
Yeah, so but you don't really need them because I mean even then he uses Rage Art. He also has double Rapukin or not double Rapukin. His super Rapukin, which is just like double Kortsuka forward. And that does plenty of damage and it has a lot of utility too because it's a projectile super that goes full screen.
Hey, that sounds stupid as fuck.
I mean, you can just sidestep it, but
Oh, okay, yeah, I forget. I'm thinking like 2D fighting game, but
yeah,
obviously Tekken you can just kind of like walk out of the way.
hmm yeah. Like the 2D characters, they bring a different level of execution to Tekken. Like Akuma and Geese, they have like pretty like like standard like 2D fighting game execution like in them in a 3D fighting game, and for a lot of Tekken people who were like experienced in Tekken, not so much in 2D fighters.
Oh yeah, because Tekken players like it's like CS:GO or like Counter Strike where it's like the like up and coming talent has been in the scene for 10 years type thing.
Yeah, like in Tekken, it's very close knit. Everybody is they've been playing forever. Like legacy skill is very important in Tekken, and even in a game like Seven where it's the least important it's ever been, it's still important. It's still more important than like any other fighting game on the market. Like it's
Yeah.
like legacy skill will take you places in Tekken, no matter what.
See, I actually think with Tekken at least, like maybe not some of the other, because I feel like at least to me, Tekken isn't as mainstream as like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. So I think, in some ways, it'd be a bit more acceptable to have it like harder inputs, because then you're primarily marketing it towards a like competitive fan base or semi-competitive fan base.
Hmm.
I know that might kind of like be completely against my other points, but that's just kind of like
Yeah, like no, I get it. I get it. Like I know like a game like Tekken, they do pretty well casually, but I know a core like design principle they have with Tekken and like 5, 6, and 7 is make cool things happen from simplistic inputs, but still have depth. You could definitely see that like there's cool animations that happen if you press like two kicks or like two punches or something or like a direction to punch. There's things that look cool, but they have very obvious counters and they have different uses in competitive play. Uh, I I think designing a game for both competitive and casual play is very difficult, but I think there's games that do it well.
Yeah. I honestly think probably Skullgirls to me seemed like the best example. Like, just like from how easy the inputs felt, like just learning them even on like mouse and keyboard.
hmm Oh yeah, I mean like there's input leniency like has grown a lot in modern fighting games, and I think Skullgirls has a very good it has a very good implementation of it. Inputs
Yeah,
inputs can be fairly forgiving, but the game is still very difficult and has tight combos, and
yeah,
the game is fun for people of all skill levels because for new players they can just chain moves together one by one, right? And
yeah,
and look cool doing it, right? And supers are just a small input and two buttons, right? But for that competitive
yeah,
player, those mechanics find new uses, and I think that's when uh, fighting games go to that next level. When tools are double faceted for both competitive and casual play, that's when a
yeah,
fighting game can like really like take off. I think.
yeah. That's to me like the ideal situation.
hmm Yeah, I mean, obviously it's easier said than done, right? But I definitely
Yeah,
do appreciate when developers do it, and especially when developers do it in more ways than just having like input leniency, right?
yeah,
Like input leniency has been in like every fighting game since like the PS2 era, and
yeah,
it's hasn't helped everybody. But when developers like take that like extra mile to learn something, like
yeah.
Granblue to me is a great example because their audience comes from a mobile game and fighting games competitively, right? So for those mobile game players, they included an RPG mode where there's incentives for knowing inputs in the RPG mode itself. Uh,
Okay, yeah. So then, but like you can still get a full experience out of it.
yeah, and then there's also like the shortcut commands as well. Like in I know Grand Blue RPG mode, like you do more damage if you do inputs with certain weapons and stuff because there's that game has a pretty interesting like single player content where like there's weapon skins instead of character skins, and there's
Okay, yeah.
and they have like buffs inside the story mode, not like regular multiplayer. But
Okay, so it's like this is probably a horrible comparison, but it's similar to World of Light, kind of, where it's like
yeah,
you can
I'd say that,
like
but like in a lot more like physical sense because you actually get you see the changes happen. Like there's
yeah.
there's thing
Oh,
yeah instead of just like a multiplier happening off screen, it's like
yeah.
you see
So
it.
there's like you equip better armor, like the armor's there type thing.
Yeah, like that was really interesting to me in Grand Blue. I mentioned this before, but like in multiplayer, with the simple commands, like one button commands, the way they even like decreased cooldown for certain simple commands, like DP has a longer simple command than a fireball because one is stronger, and even like with grappler characters, like there's Ladiva, and she has a 360 input that you can do with a button and a direction, or doing the 360 input.
Yeah.
And
So then, like
mhm.
every character has some kind of requirement for them.
Yeah, for all characters there is merit to using the simple command or the regular command in certain instances. Like let's say you're not very good at doing like 360s for like a tick throw or something. You can just
Yeah,
just
you don't
press
have
it.
to use that, but then like you can use a certain other input. You can be selective with it.
Yeah, especially because you're not spamming 360s like all the time, right? So you're probably gonna have time for that little like 4 second cooldown, you know. Whereas
Yeah,
like
so
with a
there's
DP, you may want it because let's say you get knocked down, you were to use your DP. Now you don't have a reversal option if you don't have super.
so yeah, you kind of stuffed into getting hit by the combo.
Yeah, like it creates metagame, and even like with like top level play that we've seen so far, because the game it came out in a COVID world, but top level play that we've seen so far, like top players who've been playing games for years, they will still use the simple commands in certain situations. It gives merit at all levels of play, and I think that was a really good system, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I,
Well, I gotta go, man.
oh, okay,
Sorry.
well, it's been great, man.
Yeah.
That was a great talk. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Hopefully, I haven't like given you like completely useless like audio and shit.
Oh no, no, this was
Sorry if I
great.
have to.
It's all right. This was
Yeah.
30 minutes. Yeah, this was 30 minutes of footage. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, sweet.
All right.
Thanks, man. Hope it goes well for you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.